Taxation is considered as one of the most important topics of discussion. If nothing, most of us will look at the budget at the beginning of the year, or we will try to analyze how we can reduce our taxes. In fact, there are a lot of legal ways by which we can claim our deductions, understand our salaries, and reduce our tax liability. After understanding everything about investments, it's only a gradual process to understand what is taxation, how every single income that you earn is probably taxed, and what are the ways in which you can control your taxation or be ready for what is going to come with respect of taxes. In fact, for most of us, making our investments to claim that ATC deductions were one of the first investments that we ever make. So definitely tax plays a huge role in our financial planning. So let's understand taxation and the various sources of income on which taxes are deducted and how it works together. In the words of Albert Einstein, the hardest thing in the world to learn is income tax. Well, in this session, we are going to prove him wrong and teach you about income tax and all the things under taxation that you must know. You are taxed based on the type of income you earn, and hence, as per the tax laws, the incomes are classified under 5 major heads, and then the taxability is determined under each head. The first one being salary income, which we shall discuss now in this session. The second one is rental income or income from house property. We've discussed about it in module 1, session 7 of real estate. The third one is business income. We shall discuss the basics of business income taxation, which will be applicable for all freelancers, consultants, and business owners. Capital gains taxation. This is basically the income that you earn from buying and selling of various asset classes. We've discussed a bit about capital gains in those respective asset classes under debt, equity, and mutual funds. Last is other income, which is an open-ended category for all your interest income, dividend income, and how the same is taxable. So in this session, we will take one head after the other and explain you the various details under that head, starting with salary income. If you're a salaried individual, the first thing that you get when you join a new company is the offer letter, and along with the offer letter, you get your CTC or compensation structure. In this compensation structure, your entire income is broken down into various components and is written down for you. Based on these components, your income is taxed and eventually you get a net income in your hand. A lot of times individuals expect that, oh, if my CTC is 1 lakh rupees each month, I'm going to receive 1 at the end of the month. But unfortunately, you end up receiving a much lower amount due to taxes being deducted, your PF going out, and some components which are not paid out to you unless you submit your bills. Let's understand about salary income by getting a hold of how your CTC looks like, various components of the CTC and the taxability of those components, which will help you know that why there is a difference between your CTC and your in-hand income and how your salary income is taxed. Here you can see a breakup of your CTC. CTC is nothing but the cost to the company. Here you can see your elements like your basic salary of 9,60,000, HRA, house rent allowance of 4,80,000, transport allowance of 1,20,000, and special allowance of 3,90,000. Then you have various components of your cash perquisites. These are basically components of your salary which you receive when you submit the bills to your employer and are also tax-free. They are telephone and internet bills of 36,000, leave travel allowance of 72,000. Then you have non-cash perquisites. Basically, no amount is credited for these components in your bank account, but there's still a benefit that you get, such as medical insurance of around 12,600. So the amount generally mentioned here is the premium amount. Meal coupons. Some employers give us meal coupons or meal concessions or even Sodexo coupons. So they are here of 26,400 rupees for the month. Then you have some conditional payments which come to you only when certain conditions are satisfied, such as gratuity. You receive gratuity when you complete at least 5 years of employment and quit your company after that. So this is more like a loyalty benefit that you get. And then there is performance based bonus, which here is mention of 3,01,000 rupees. But as we all know, performance based bonus is dependent on your performance, and you may get the entire amount or not depending on the numbers that you've achieved in a year. So your total salary comes to 25 lakh rupees. So let's see, how does your CTC look like? You have basic salary and allowance, which is of 19,50,000. Now most of this entire component is credited to your bank account each month. Cash perquisites of 1,08,000 rupees. Most of the employers credit this amount to your bank account. Some of them may do it only when you submit your bills. Second, PF contributions. As you can see in the CTC, there was a small line which said that employer and employee's contribution of 12% of your basic was made out of this salary. So your EPF contributions are made. Then you have non-cash perquisites of 39,000 rupees, and you have gratuity and bonus of 4,03,000 rupees. So these are various components of your salary, and you need to understand that which ones are credited to your bank account each month and which ones are not. And then further, these are divided based on their taxability. Like we have tax-free components, partially taxable components, and fully taxable components. So your fully taxable consists of basic salary, special allowance, dearness allowance. There could be some other allowances as well. Your partially taxable consists of house rent allowance, car maintenance, LTA, phone and internet bills. As the name suggests, that the total amount under this is not taxable if you fulfill certain criteria and submit the bills to your employer. Then these components will not be taxable. We shall discuss about those conditionalities in just a while. Then there are some tax-free components, like you get a standard deduction of 50,000 and meal coupons, uniform allowance, children allowance and newspaper allowance. Well, the number 345, that's your uniform, children and newspaper allowance, are not very commonly included in CTCs these days, but they are a part of the law, and hence we've included here for discussion purposes. So let's have a look at all these partially taxable components and understand how they are taxed and what are the things that you need to keep in mind with respect to them. House rent allowance, it's basically an allowance that is available to you if you are paying rent. If you're living in your own house, then the entire amount becomes taxable. But if you are paying rent, then you get a deduction for the amount of rent that you pay, subject to these three conditions. Then you get a deduction for the amount of rent that you pay, which is the minimum of these 3 points. Your HRA deduction to be claimed is a minimum of these 3, which is your actual HRA received. From your salary, it is of INR 40,000. Second option is 40 to 50% of your basic and DA. So that is 50% of 80,000 rupees, which is your basic salary, comes to 40,000 rupees. And the next option is actual rent paid minus 10% of basic. So given that your actual rent paid is 45,000 and 10% of your basic comes to 4,000, so this amount is 41,000. So what do you get? The least of these 3 is 40,000 rupees. So the deduction that you can claim while computing your tax liability would be 40,000 rupees. Just remember that you get this deduction only when you are paying rent, and you need to submit proof documents to your employer such as rent receipt, rent agreement and a PAN of your owner to claim these deductions. Now the next allowance is your leave travel allowance. It's a way of the company to tell you that go take leave, travel during that leave, come back, give us the bills, and we will give you a deduction of the expenses that you incurred on that travel. Yes, as the name suggests, leave travel allowance is a deduction you get from your LTA amount if you've traveled in a year. Now you can claim LTA as tax-free. Now these are the conditions that we've stated which will help you to claim these components as tax-free. You can claim LTA as tax-free only twice in a block of 4 years. So 2018 to 2021 is a block of 4 years, and you can claim LTA as tax-free only twice in this. And you can claim this not only for your personal travel but also for your family members, which includes your spouse, children and parents, brothers and sisters if they are wholly dependent on you. And you must submit the bills of your travel to claim these deductions. So let's see some of the points. You must have actual expenses on traveling or LTA in salary, whichever is lower. So the deduction is either the actual travel spend or the LTA amount in your CTC, whichever is lower. You get a deduction for the shortest distance to the destination, and you get a deduction only for your flight, rail and public transport. So you get deductions only for your transport, not exactly for your hotel stays. There are more criteria that needs to be fulfilled when you're looking at the LTA. So you can go and have a look at the article which is linked to the description to know in detail about LTA and what are the conditions that you can fulfill to claim that. After HRA and LTA, the third most common component that you get in your salary are your reimbursable bills. Until 2 years back, all of us at the end of our yearly cycles with the company would sit up and submit medical bills, conveyance bills, and a lot of such bills to claim a deduction in our taxes. However, the government let go of medical and conveyance bills, and only telephone bills deductions are available. So if they are a part of your salary component, you can submit your telephone and internet bills and get a deduction for the same. Now, in place of medical and conveyance deductions, government came up with a standard deduction of 50,000, which is available to every salaried individual irrespective of your income or these components being a part of your salary. And you do not need to submit any bills to claim these deductions. The next one is meal coupons. Now, these meal coupons are provided by companies. The deduction that's available is maximum to the extent of 2 meals per day for 22 days in a year for 50 rupees per meal. So basically, you can get a deduction of up to 26,400 rupees as per the Act. So if you are getting meal coupons which are more than this, then you will get a deduction of only 26,400, and if you're getting less than this, then you will get a deduction of to the amount you're getting. So please note that all these deductions are compared to your CTC amount, and whichever is lower can be claimed as a tax deduction. So let's see how your income from your salary will look like. You would have your total income as per CTC, which is 25 lakhs. Out of that, HRA is removed because you're staying on rent of 4,80,000 rupees. Then your allowances such as LTA, phone reimbursements and meal coupons are also removed to the extent of 1,34,400 rupees. Then your conditional payments as bonus and gratuity is also removed. For the easier discussion purposes, we have considered that you do not get any bonus for this year. And lastly, a standard deduction of 50,000 rupees is also deducted from your salary. So your taxable income from salary comes to 14,20,000 rupees. So out of the entire 25 lakhs package, your taxable income from salary is 14,20,000 rupees. Let's see how your salary slip will look like. When you have a look at your salary slip, you can see your basic amount. First, your salary slip will have details like your company's name, the month for which it is pertaining to, your bank account details, your UAN number. Then you would have your amount details below, your basic amount, HRA, special allowance. Basically all the taxable and partially taxable numbers are credited to you each month. Then your LTA is paid out to you each month, and it's exempt only if you submit the bills. Then you have deductions like your PF, which is employers and employee PF. It is contributed to your PF fund. Then there is a professional tax which is paid out each month to the extent of 200 rupees. So your professional tax is paid out in some states which is of 2,500 rupees. So 200 rupees is deducted each month, and generally in the month of February, companies deduct 300 rupees. And your taxes are deducted each month on your behalf. So the company deducts taxes on your behalf and pays it to the government. And at the end of the year, when you file your income tax return, you can have a check whether the taxes are paid appropriately by the month. We shall discuss in the later end of this section as to how you need to keep a check of this and what are the things you can do to reduce your tax liabilities to the maximum extent possible. So some of the things that you should keep in mind if you're a salaried individual is that always transfer your compensation structure to your personal email, all your salary slips to your personal email, receipts for rent. So where you're paying rent, take those receipts of rent and transfer to your personal email, and have proof for all the deductions that you claim, whether it's meal coupons, LTA, rent, and have them with you saved somewhere. And also keep a copy of your Form 16. Form 16 is a form that you would get from your employer about how he has deducted taxes and paid those taxes on your behalf to the government. So after completing salaried income and how the same is taxed, let's have a look at rental income. We've already discussed about rental income in our module 1, session 7 of real estate, where we spoke that how you gain rent income from a property and the same is taxed. So let's have a few things that you must keep in mind when it comes to rental income. Any rent that you receive from a house which is let out is considered as taxable. The taxable amount can be the actual rent that you receive or a reasonable amount of rent that you would receive for that property. As an owner of the property, you would get deductions for any municipal taxes that you pay on that house. So basically your maintenance bill would have property taxes in it. So you would get a deduction to the extent of property taxes paid, and you get a standard deduction of 30%. You don't need to do anything. It's a standard deduction that is given to you from the income tax laws. So let's have a look at an example to understand this. Let's assume that your rental income is 50,000 rupees per month. So it's 6 lakh rupees per annum. Then you get a standard deduction of 30%, which is 1,80,000. And the municipal taxes that you paid on that house is 25,000. So your total taxable income comes down to 3,95,000. And this is your income from house property, which is taxable. This is the way you need to look at every single income that you earn and compute the taxable income from that. And at the end of the session, we'll tell you how the tax liability that you have to pay is computed. So after salary income and rental income, the third income that we need to consider is capital gains. Capital gains is nothing but the income that you earn from your investments by selling investments. We've discussed this in module 1 and 2 at detailed length, that when you buy an asset and sell that asset on profit, the gains that you make on that is considered as capital gains. And in general, these capital gains are divided into short-term capital gains and long-term capital gains and taxed accordingly. So let's quickly revise your taxation on equity. From equity, your stock appreciation or capital gains is divided into short term or long term, and you have dividend income, which we shall discuss in income from other sources. The difference between the buying and selling price of a share is considered as gains. Your capital gains are taxable only when you actually go and sell those shares and that amount is credited to your bank account. So your short-term gains is when you've held the equity for 12 months or less than 12 months, and the same is taxable at a flat 15%. Long-term gains is when you hold them for more than 12 months. Your long-term gains from equity are only taxable when they are more than 1 lakh rupees. So gains up to 1 lakh is tax-free, and the one above 1 lakh is taxable at 10%. Whereas your taxation of debt funds also depends for how long you hold it, but your short term and long term is defined by 36 months. So in equity, it was based on holding the equity for 12 months. In debt, it is defined by holding the debt for 36 months. So where it's short term, it's added to your total income and taxed as per your slab rates. Where it's more than 36 months, it's taxed at a flat rate of 20%. So capital gains can be considered as a big deciding factor when you're making your investment decisions. So please do keep a note of how much taxes you are going to pay when you sell a particular asset, and whether that is eating into your gains from that asset and to what extent. So do consider your taxation before making your final decisions with respect to your investments. Now the last one is other income, which is like for all the leftover incomes that we earn. In other income, some of the income that we earn is considered as taxable, whereas some are considered exempt. So your taxable income consists of income from your FDs. We've already discussed this in the debt session, that interest on your FDs, which is accrued, is taxable. So you don't have to wait till the maturity and the amount to come to your bank account. If you have a 3-year FD, so any interest that you earn for that 1 year is considered taxable. Interest on any income tax refund, so if you get a refund from the tax authorities, if you paid higher taxes, that is taxable. Proceeds from an insurance that you surrender before the maturity date. So a lot of times we end up doing that. In case you've done it, it would be taxable. Your exempt income would consider income from your PPF and EPF. Remember, they are exempt. Gifts that you receive during your wedding. So any cash gifts or otherwise that you receive during your wedding is considered tax-free. The next head of income, which is business income, is for freelancers, consultants, and business owners. In this case, one must understand that when you are running your business, your gross sales or your turnover is not what is taxable, but the profits that you generate or the income that you earn from the business is taxable. And hence, as a business owner, if you keep a track of all your bills and invoices properly, you can reduce your tax liability to a great extent. So your business income depends on the kind of business you are running. Your business income is your selling price of the goods. But when you're providing services, then the fees that you charge for those services is considered as your gross income, but not your taxable income. Your taxable income is computed after considering all the business related expenses. So what are some of these expenses? The rental expense that you incur for your office space or your workshop, salary expenses of yourself and your team members. So when you're running a business, your business and you are two different people. So you can claim all the salary that you're paying to yourself out of your business. Conveyance and travel for business, your stationery for office, advertising and marketing costs, they form a crucial part of running a business successfully today. So those expenses can be claimed as a deduction, and any legal and financing costs. Basically, any expense that is directly or indirectly in connection to the business can be claimed as a deduction, but any personal expenses, like if you're buying clothes for yourself or your personal travels, cannot be claimed as a business expense. and then the profit that you generate is considered and added to your total taxable income. Now, business income can be a little complicated depending on the structure of the business and how that structure is taxed. We would advise you to go to a professional to get this sorted for your own business. After knowing all the income that comes under the purview of salary, rental income, capital gains, other income and business income, there are some tax deductions which are available to you. So you can claim these deductions if you spend or invest your money as per those deductions. So let's quickly go through all the tax deductions that may be applicable to you. Tax savings section. So basically your tax deductions are majorly divided under section 80C, 80CCC and 80CCD, where you get a maximum deduction of 1.5 lakh rupees. Plus you get an additional deduction of 50,000 rupees towards NPS. So let's quickly see what are the investments and expenses that you can incur to get a deduction under section 80C of 1,50,000 rupees. So basically you can reduce your total taxable income by 1.5 lakh rupees by saving and investing your money into these options. So your investment options are employees' contribution to EPF, voluntary provident fund, tax saving fixed deposits, public provident fund. Some of the first four we've already discussed in our session: debt. Then you have some other options like Sukanya Samriddhi scheme and senior citizen scheme. Then ELSS we've discussed in our mutual fund sessions. National pension scheme, national savings certificate offered by post office is also discussed. Then you have some pension plan and central government employee scheme. Life insurance premium is what we are going to discuss in module 4. So out of the 12 options, 5 options are already discussed and explained to you throughout module 1 and 2. Then there are some expenses also that you incur which can be claimed as a deduction, which is tuition fee for 2 children, stamp duty and registration cost for the house. So this is a one-time cost when you buy a new house, and principal payment of your home loan. So let's understand what is National Pension Scheme. So basically you get a further deduction of 50,000 rupees if you opt for a National Pension Scheme. National Pension Scheme works similar to a mutual fund. You can choose between a debt or an equity option, and you can get a deduction of the same under section 80C as well. So if you invest 2 lakh rupees in National Pension Scheme, then you get a deduction of 1.5 lakhs under 80C and 50,000 under 80CCD. The way National Pension Scheme works is that you keep contributing your investment into the scheme, and at your retirement age, you get 60% of the entire corpus accumulated back, and the balance 40% of the corpus is converted into an annuity plan. So National Pension Scheme, as the name suggests, works like a proper pension plan. Then the next deduction after 80C that you can get is for your expenses and insurance towards your health and well-being. Basically, the government gives you a tax deductions for the premium that you pay on your health insurance and your dependent family members insurance. This is a way of the government to encourage us to take insurance policies. So the amount that you can claim as a deduction depends on your age and your parents' age. So where you and your spouse's age and children are less than 60, then you get a deduction of 25,000. And as you become a senior citizen, you get a deduction of 50,000. So you can see that in the first situation, both are under 60. So total deduction under section 80D is of 50,000. In second situation, it is of 75,000. And in the third situation, it is of 1 lakh rupees, where everyone is a senior citizen. Apart from these deductions, you can also claim 5,000 rupees for preventive and health checkup, but that is included under the total deduction amount. Apart from health insurance and investments, you get a deduction for your loans. We discussed that in the previous session, where interest payable on your education loan is completely tax deductible. For your home loan, you get a deduction of up to 2 lakh rupees. When you get a home loan for a house whose value is less than 45 lakhs, you get a tax deduction of 1.5 lakh rupees. If you are planning to buy an electric vehicle in the next 2 years, that is up to March 2023 on a loan, the interest on that up to 1.5 lakh rupees is also tax deductible. So these are some of the loans which can help you with tax planning. Now, what are the interest on your savings and fixed deposit account? So for individuals, the interest on your savings bank balance. So you must see that every quarter an amount is credited to your bank account as interest. That up to 10,000 rupees is tax free. And for senior citizens, any interest across various products up to INR 50,000 is tax free. Donations. If you are making donations to registered institutes, then you get a deduction for the donations made. There are certain criteria and conditions that these institutes need to follow, and you should get a certificate from them to claim the donation amounts as tax deductions. So if you are making donations, ensure to take a tax certificate from them to claim the tax deduction. So these are some of the deductions which helps you reduce your tax liability to a huge extent. So now you know your taxable income, you know your deductions, which will help you compute your total tax liability. Now before we get into that computation and tell you how to derive at your tax liabilities, there are two ways in which you can follow your computations, that is new regime and old regime. This was announced by the government in last year's budget and would get effective for this financial year, that is 1st April 2020 to 31st March 2021. New regime gives you an option to not claim any tax deductions that we just discussed about and then pay taxes at a lower rate compared to the taxes that are available to you under the old regime. So your old regime and new regime talks about tax deductions and thus reducing your tax liability to that extent. In the old regime, you get all the tax deductions, and in the new regime, you don't get them. So if your tax deductions are more than 2.5 lakh rupees, then you can go under the old regime and claim all the deductions, and if it's less than 2.5 lakh rupees, then you can go under the new tax regime. On the income tax website, there is a e-calculator and you can punch in your numbers to know your tax liabilities under both the regime to get an idea what is beneficial for you. In our opinion, it would be better to go under old regime because for the purpose of tax deductions, at least a lot of people end up investing their money into tax deductible options and get a health insurance. So your basic investments are covered. In fact, most of us start our investments from the perspective of saving taxes. Now, where you move to new regime, you may have more income in hand today to spend more, but from a long-term planning, it is not that good because you would not have any investments as such. So do consider these criteria before selecting the right regime for you. So let's compute your complete tax liability. Let's look at various incomes that you have and how you would be taxed for it. So your taxable income from salary comes to 14,20,000 rupees. Your income from house property comes from 3,95,000 rupees. We've also considered that you have a short-term capital gains of 10,000 rupees. Please note that this is not from equity because short-term capital gains on equity is taxed at 15%. Then you have other taxable income of interest of 5,000 rupees. So your gross total income comes to 18,30,000 rupees. Now out of these, we will have various deductions such as ATC deduction, which is majorly covered under your EPF, and then the balance you could invest as ELSS or PPF of 1,50,000 rupees. Then you have ATCCD deduction towards your NPS of 50,000 rupees, and you also claim a health insurance deduction for yourself and your parents up to 50,000 rupees, and your 5,000 rupees of interest is also tax free. Now you also have a running education loan, and the interest that you paid for it in this year is approximately 1 lakh rupees. So your total deduction comes to 3,55,000 rupees. So your total taxable income is 14,75,000 rupees. So your tax liability will be computed on this amount. Now, given that you have deductions of more than 2.5 lakh rupees, we would, as we said, advise you to go to old regime, and your taxable rates as per old regime are as below. So we can see that we are a general public under the age of 60 years. Our tax liability would fall as up to 2.5 lakh rupees nil, 2.5 to 5 lakh rupees 5%, 5 to 10 lakh rupees 20%, and above 10 lakh rupees 30%. So let's see what will be your tax liability like. So your net taxable income, which is 14,75,000 rupees. So your income above 10 lakhs is 4,75,000 rupees. So on this, at 30%, you have to pay a tax of 1,42,500 rupees. So the total tax that you have to pay is 2,55,000 rupees. On this, there is a surcharge on education cess of 4%, which is levied, and which will be 10,200 rupees. So the total tax payable by you is 2,65,200 rupees. Now we know that from your salary, your employer has already deducted TDS at 15,470 rupees per month. So for the entire year, the TDS paid would be 1,85,640 rupees. So from your total tax payable, your TDS is reduced, and where your TDS is higher, you would get a refund, and where your TDS is lower, you would have to pay the additional taxes. In this case, your TDS is lower than the total tax payable, and hence you have to pay the net tax payable of 79,560 rupees. Now here, one important thing to note is that in this example, because apart from salary income, the person also had rental income, which he had not reported to his employer. So the employer only computed taxes based on the salary income. So you should go and report to your employer any other income that you have, so that your TDS is deducted per month accordingly, and then in the end of year you don't have to compute your taxes and affect your cash flows by paying a higher taxes of 79,560 rupees. It does not impact your cash flows in the month of March. And where you just have salary income and no other source of income, then your employer will compute your TDS, which should ideally match your total tax payable, or could be higher than your total tax payable in case if you take any additional deductions. In such a case, a refund would be payable to you. After understanding everything about taxes, the last bit to know is that you must file your income tax returns on time every year to make the most of everything that we've learned, and pay your tax liabilities on time. Even where you don't have any taxable income, it is a prudent practice to file your taxes. So why do you need to file your ITR? Where you cross the income limit of 2.5 lakh rupees, you must do that. If you're planning to obtain a loan in the future, your income tax returns are used as a reference to know how much you earn, and hence filing your taxes from day one is a good plan. Even for higher education and getting a job outside India, income tax return works as a good proof, and you need it for the at least past 3 years. So filing it from day one is of good practice. If you're traveling abroad, your visa applications gets processed faster if you have ITR documents which shows that you are a good citizen of the country who earns an income and also files your taxes on time. So these are just some of the reasons that you should keep in mind if you are thinking to not file your taxes. So basically everyone and anyone must file taxes if your income is exceeding 2.5 lakh rupees annually, or excess TDS have been deducted for you and you want to claim a refund of the same. You're planning a trip or taking that loan in the future, and also know that the late filing fees has increased a lot. So if you don't file your taxes, the repercussions could be really high. For instance, if the due date to file income tax return is the 31st July of the following year, so if you don't file your taxes by then, you have to pay 5,000 rupees as penalty. And if you don't file even up to December, then you have to pay 10,000 rupees as penalty. So do know that for every late filing, you're further incurring high costs. So the document that you must check before filing your income tax return is Form 26AS. This document you would get from the income tax website, and it has all the details of the salary or the consultant fees, if that's what you're earning, is credited to your bank account, TDS that's deducted, any interest payments that's made to you, advance taxes deducted, any high value transactions that you would have done in a year for, like, your mutual funds or other investments, and income tax refund that's paid out to you. So you would get an idea of your entire income on this form. So it's a prudent practice to check the Form 26AS. So as we wrap up the tax planning session, quickly go through all the document proofs that's required by you and you must keep in one place to keep a track of all your investments, deductions and income that you incur in a year. So yes, taxation can be a bit exhausting because it's like a summary of the entire income that you earn, how it is classified under the 5 heads, then making those investments and expenses to claim that tax deduction, choosing your regime, and then finally computing your taxes and paying it. It would be better if you consult a professional for your taxes before filing it, in case if there are any complications in the same, because every individual earns different taxes under different heads, and hence there are more specific conditions and criteria which are specified in the law. So let's quickly go to the 3 major things that we've learned from this session. Income from all sources is taxable in your hands, whether it's salary, capital gains, rental income, other income, everything. Make your investments and other expenses under various tax deduction sections that are available to you before 31st March of the following year to claim it as a tax deduction. Go for the new regime where total deduction is less than 2.5 lakh rupees, and where it's more old regime, it is for you. Well, this is the last session of module 3. In this module, we discussed about how to get investing. So the next session is a quick recap on what you need to do next while you wait for module 4 and the last module of this course to get live.